Spider-Man Brand New Day is one of the biggest and most successful movies of all time, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man is not coming to an end anytime soon. Spider-Man 5 is on the way, but where should they take the story? Well, in this video, I'll be giving my general idea for what I'd like Spider-Man 5 to look like, but it's most certainly not made out of thin air. There are a few things we need to consider. The biggest one comes from the ending of Brand New Day, which teases Avengers Secret Wars, a movie that will thoroughly shake up the MCU, and so before I go over what I'd like Spider-Man 5 to be, I do first have to predict how Secret Wars will end. Secret Wars is the name of two different comic book events, and while one will most certainly be more important than the other to influence the plot, the other one will be just as important for the Spider-Man movie specifically. The 2015 version of Secret Wars will be the main influence. The story begins with the end of the multiverse, with one world built by pieces of other worlds throughout the multiverse, created by Doctor Doom. This world, which will undoubtedly be the setting of Secret Wars, is Latveria, known colloquially as Battle World, which is where Spider-Man was tracked to in the end credit scene. In the comics, the events of Secret Wars take place 8 years later, meaning that Latveria existed for 8 years, but I have a feeling that they will not be going down that route to simplify things to happen just one after the other, especially since they already did a big time jump in Endgame. The 1984 Secret Wars follows a godlike being named the Beyonder, creating the original battle world and bringing various heroes and villains in to make them battle each other just for his amusement. This inspired the comic that inspires the movie, but also in that original event, Peter Parker found a weird black goo that turned into his new black suit, and we all know where that went. I think Avengers Secret Wars is the perfect time to give him the symbiote suit after his main suit is destroyed. Secret Wars will then lead into a soft reboot of the universe, which I won't pretend to predict every aspect, but one thing I think we can say for certain, or rather almost for certain, is that the Earth 828 version of the Fantastic Four will be incorporated into the mainline universe, and the timeline will be somewhat streamlined, maybe with a few changes here and there. The Fantastic Four being in the MCU is important because I would like for them to be included in the next Spider-Man movie. It's become clear now that every MCU Spider-Man movie needs to cover a few basics, with the idea being that since we are a part of a larger universe, we might as well utilize it. Each one contains other MCU characters, from Iron Man and Captain America in Homecoming, to Nick Fury and the Skrulls in Far From Home, to Doctor Strange in No Way Home, and now Hulk, Punisher, the Hand, and Jean Grey in Brand New Day. Brand New Day specifically brought together a character from Universal, a character from the TV shows, obviously Spider-Man is Sony, a character from a movie that released a year prior, and a character from a franchise that hasn't even begun yet. Anything is possible. With that in mind, the heroes that I want them to include are the Fantastic Four, who have a great relationship with Peter in the comics that I would like to see, but specifically Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic. While the Thing and the Invisible Woman maybe could appear in a different movie, maybe we could split up the Fantastic Four into two different projects. Then there is Daredevil, since it's about time we see him and Spider-Man teaming up against something other than a brick. Another constant is the supporting cast. It seemed possible for Brand New Day to move away from Ned and MJ and introduce Harry, Gwen, or other classic Spider-Man characters in a brand new cast, but they clearly cemented these two as a part of this franchise's core trio, a trio that I think many people show up to these movies literally just for them, so I think it's really smart that they do not move away from them. And obviously Tom Holland and Zendaya are married, so they're going to stick together. However, their memories are quite complicated. My take on the ending of Brand New Day is that the spell is absolutely still set in stone. Ned and Peter's handshake was muscle memory, him saying Peter like that was him connecting MJ calling Spider-Man Peter to this stranger, and then Peter's smile was not a smile of he remembers unless he thought that he does, but rather a smile of I'm building a new friendship, I'm no longer alone. Peter will go on to tell Ned everything, and Ned, while not remembering, believes every single word, and they quickly go back to becoming best friends, and Ned goes back to being the guy in the chair, just now all without a shared history. As for MJ, my take on the Black Dahlia moment is that she always felt some sort of sentimental connection to the necklace, but doesn't really remember buying it and where it came from, but now connects the dots to understand it's from Peter. She's beginning to feel some feelings, but it's complicated because she's dating Paul while falling in love with Peter. But since hearing I Don't Love You, Peter has decided to move on, even if deep down he doesn't actually. Enter the Black Cat. But also on the topic of MJ, we should take the timeline reboot opportunity opportunity to say that in this timeline her name is Mary Jane Watson, it's always been Mary Jane Watson, and nothing else about her is different. Not that it really matters, since on screen she's always just called MJ anyways. Just canonically, in this timeline, her name is Mary Jane Watson. So we have the character drama, we have the Black Cat, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, the symbiote suit, but we need a villain, and I would absolutely like to keep it street level, and certainly actually use a Spider-Man villain this time around, unlike Brand New Day. My first thought was the Kingpin, but quite frankly, after as many seasons as we've gotten with him as a big bad, I guess I'm just not as excited or even interested in that prospect anymore. He was already the mayor of New York, and Spider-Man did not get involved, so like where else do you even take him? However, I do love the idea of the big bad being a mob boss or a crime lord, and I think they should use someone they've never used before. I think, with Ned Leeds as a part of this cast, we have a really good opportunity here to use a villain never used before in the Hobgoblin, while having the movie surround the mystery as to who he is. Is he Ned? Maybe an Osborn? Maybe one of the other alter egos of the Hobgoblin that would all be introduced in this movie? Well, you'd have to watch the movie to find out. Finally, Tom Holland has talked about how he wants to introduce Miles Morales, and I think this is a great opportunity to do so. Aaron Davis, as the Prowler, will return after his appearances in Homecoming and technically Across the Spider-Verse, which could be referenced a bit, but we would also be introduced to his nephew, who is now a teenager and will soon be bitten by a radioactive spider. As for the title, we could go down the same route as the Home trilogy and choose one of the words from Brand New Day, either brand new or what is the best fit, day, and in that case, I like Spider-Man Night and Day, as it contrasts his day life and night life. Alternatively, it could simply be the Brand New Day trilogy, and each movie, like Brand New Day, is named after a different story arc from the comics, and in that case, this movie would be called Spider-Man Identity Crisis, and as we go through this movie, you will soon see that that is a perfect title. Let me know which title you would prefer, but I do know what I would choose. And while you're at it, make sure to leave a like, and a huge thanks to the King tier members for the extra support. They and the Noble tier members were able to watch this video and certain other videos early, so become a member today. So how could this possibly all fit together? It sounds like a lot, right? Well, here is my plot breakdown for Spider-Man Identity Crisis 2029. In a brand new timeline, we meet Spider-Man as he's in his regular costume and visits a dying kid who shows him his collection of Spider-Man memorabilia, including images and newspaper clippings of when he fought the Vulture, the Rhino, the Beetle, and Big Wheel. A few of the newspapers are from the Daily Bugle, and the images on the articles say written by Phil Urich, who comic book fans will recognize as one of the many Hobgoblins. The kid asks Spider-Man why he hasn't been around as much anymore, and Peter can't answer him. As he leaves, the symbiote suit envelops him, showing right off the bat that Peter is aware that the black suit is not as friendly to the neighborhood, but wears it anyway. Peter is called by Jean DeWolf, who informs him about a fight going down not too far from him. He arrives to find Daredevil beating on some thugs. Peter knows Daredevil on a first name basis and calls him Matt out loud, as his identity is still public. We learn that the two of them have been working together to fight a gang war between Hammerhead and a mysterious new player with a hidden identity known as the Hobgoblin. This shakes Peter. Is he related to the Green Goblin? Why is he called that? The ever-busy Spidey is then called away to the Baxter building to discuss his suit. Peter leaves the suit with Reed to do some tests, but is called away when New York is attacked by a villain named Swarm. Reed remains to do tests, but Spider-Man is joined by the Human Torch, peckish for some action. Without the black suit, Spider-Man feels naked. He's gotten used to it and is now even reliant on it. So he struggles while Human Torch does most of the work. After defeating Swarm, they both return to the Baxter building, where Reed informs Peter that the suit is an alien symbiote, but Peter says that he has it under control. Frustrated, he takes the suit back. However, when Johnny lights his hand on fire, the symbiote causes Peter to recoil. He swings away. In Brand New Day, Peter promised to begin balancing his life as Spider-Man with his life as Peter Parker. The issue with that is that it was a lot easier said than done. Even with his upgraded powers, the balancing act left him far less time as Spider-Man, and New York suffered because of it. With the symbiote, however, he can suit up instantaneously and deal with criminals faster, allowing him the ability to balance his life well. That's how he justifies keeping the suit to himself as he swings over to Ned's apartment. However, when he enters, he sees that MJ is there with her boyfriend. He always tries to avoid him and always tries to avoid MJ when he's there, and MJ's boyfriend noticed this. This time, he brings it up. Peter explains it away before going to hang out with Ned in a different room. While he and Ned talk, we learn that the reason that Peter is avoiding MJ and her boyfriend is not because of the awkward tension that she is his ex and vice versa. It's because he discovered that his name is Harry Osborn, and he does not not like the implication. Peter brings up the Hobgoblin to Ned, but has suspicions that it is Harry. During this scene, Ned brings up that he's been trying to practice his magic ever since Peter reminded him of it. On the flip side, when Harry asks if there's anything going on between MJ and Peter, she can't give him a straight answer. She can't tell him no. The next day, Spider-Man is celebrated at an NYPD event where he is introduced to Jean DeWolf's husband, Robert Kingsley, another one of the Hobgoblin's comic book alter egos. He is a fashion designer who bluntly tells Spider-Man, "I don't like this black suit, let me make you a new one for free." Spider-Man declines the offer as his spider sense goes off. The celebration is interrupted by a gang battle. Spider-Man leaps into action and does his best to contain it, but it's too much for him alone. In this clash, Hobgoblin fights Hammerhead and kills him, cementing his place at the top. In the chaos, Jean is shot, putting her in the hospital as Hobgoblin escapes. Enraged, Spider-Man meets up with Daredevil again and the two do some sleuthing. They decide to do a full-on assault, with Spider-Man just feeling powerful enough with his upgraded powers and the symbiote suit to take on whatever is coming his way by himself. Daredevil introduces Spider-Man to a contact of his on the inside, Black Cat. Felicia Hardy gives information she has about the Hobgoblin. His identity is completely unknown, but she knows where they plan on doing their next deal. Felicia does not hide her desire for Spider-Man at all, and now that Peter has decided to move on, he might be a bit pulled in as well. Matt standing there as a third wheel to Peter and Felicia's flirting sounds like it would be like a good source of comedy. Tomorrow night, they strike. Before that, Peter does some freelance programming for money when he gets a knock on the door, and it's MJ. MJ wanted to talk to Peter about her feelings. She cries about her missing memories and how they are affecting her, but Peter does not react well at all. Peter becomes angry. He lashes out at MJ for not allowing him to move on, and while MJ leaves, Peter instantly feels awful about it. That was so out of character. No point in dwelling on it now though, there is a job to do. Spider-Man and Daredevil stealthily break into a building. Peter's spider sense goes off and the lights turn on. The duo find themselves surrounded by armed men, Prowler, who works for the Hobgoblin, and the Hobgoblin himself. Hobgoblin has a very bulky armor. Hobgoblin laughs and taunts Spider-Man, acting as if he knows him and personally dropping key phrases in the dialogue with emphasis on words like May, Leeds, and Parker. Hobgoblin reveals that he fed Black Cat false information. He then creates a Doctor Strange style portal and leaves, leaving Prowler to attack Spider-Man while Daredevil fights the thugs. Instead of fighting in unison, Spider-Man does everything himself. He manhandles the Prowler, ripping off his mask and punching him hard enough to knock out a tooth. He then just as violently takes out each one of the thugs, while the Prowler talks about how much he hates spider people. Peter becomes paranoid. The Hobgoblin knows who he is and is now more sure than ever that he deliberately took his name from the Green Goblin, the man who killed his aunt. With this paranoia also fueled by the symbiote, Peter comes to a painful conclusion. Who else has Doctor Strange magic, knows his identity and his past? Who else but Ned Leeds? Ned opens the door to his room to find a silent black suit Spider-Man standing there menacingly. Peter confronts Ned about being the Hobgoblin, but Ned denies it. Peter gets physical and Ned begins to tear up in fear. Seeing the fear in his eyes, Peter drops him, looks at his hands, and swings away. Peter realizes that the symbiote must be affecting his personality, making him paranoid and angry. He lands on a building and tries to tear it off, but it doesn't want off anymore. He swings to the Baxter building where he meets Reed and Johnny again and tells them everything. Peter remembers how the symbiote coiled in response to the Human Torch's fire and so asks him to help him get rid of it. Peter is put into a cage so that the symbiote can't escape, and Johnny holds the flame near for like a minute while the symbiote begins to come off. But then Peter receives a call from Ned. Reed Richards answers it and allows Ned to talk. Ned begins to cackle and tells Peter he figured it out. Ned says he has MJ captive and will kill her unless Peter comes to face him alone. Realizing that the paranoia was not unfounded, that he was right, that he had a clear head, Peter stops the removal. Reed insists the symbiote be removed, but Peter refuses, breaking free of his cage, and weakened by the flames, Peter still manages to outmaneuver Johnny and Reed, leaving them both webbed up or knocked out. In the hospital, Jean DeWolf lies unconscious with her husband and kids beside her. In another room, Aaron Davis lies beaten. His brother Jefferson arrives with his wife Rio and 14-year-old son Miles. Miles loves his uncle and excitedly hugs him before asking what happened. Aaron lies, saying he was mugged, but Spider-Man saved him. Miles, wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt, says that he is jealous. Jefferson, however, gives Aaron a stern look. Peter arrives at the agreed-upon location, a lab in Queens. Peter finds Ned standing alone. MJ, Harry, and Black Cat tied up as hostages, and the dead body of a scientist lying there in a lab with tubes and deformed bodies inside of them. Finally is Ned, in regular clothing, standing all alone. Peter attacks Ned, but realizes quickly that something is off before he does something he'll regret, thanks to his spider sense, or rather lack thereof. This Ned is not really a threat. In fact, it's not Ned at all. Peter rips the mask off to reveal the Chameleon, working for the Hobgoblin. A door then opens and out falls the real Ned, unconscious and very much not a threat. A giant screen turns on to reveal the Hobgoblin, which Chameleon uses as a distraction to escape. Hobgoblin lured Spider-Man here to reveal something to him. He tells him to flip the scientist over, and Peter does so to reveal it's Miles Warren, a teacher of his from high school. Another person dead in Hobgoblin's wake. Hobgoblin invites Peter and the others to his headquarters, and then the screen shuts off. Peter gets angrier and the suit shifts because of it, and Felicia convinces Peter he needs to kill the Hobgoblin, and Peter, with now a slightly altered, venomy voice, agrees. MJ and Ned try to talk him out of it, but their cries fall on deaf ears. Spider-Man and Black Cat swing away. Harry realizes that MJ and Ned talk to Spider-Man kinda similarly to how they talk to Peter, and puts 2 and 2 together. Ned contacts an ally to stop Spider-Man from doing something that he might regret. Aaron is called by Hobgoblin to return to the job, threatening his family if he doesn't. Aaron climbs out of bed and disappears, but is followed by Miles. Everything converges at the Hobgoblin's headquarters. Spider-Man and Black Cat arrive to find Hobgoblin just sitting there alone. Spider-Man attacks him, breaking pieces off of his bulky suit to reveal the more classic Hobgoblin suit underneath. Hobgoblin uses a mixture of tech and magic to put up a fight. Black Cat takes care of some guards, and Daredevil shows up to stop Peter from delivering a fatal blow, trying to talk him down from killing, but then Prowler shows up to stop Daredevil, and Chameleon shows up to take on the Black Cat. Having followed him here, Miles finds out that his uncle is the Prowler. Peter's fight with Hobgoblin leads into another secret lab. Hobgoblin reveals that this lab and the other one both belong to Miles Warren. Hobgoblin tells Peter that Warren figured out that Peter is Spider-Man all the way back in high school and became obsessed. Warren tried to clone Peter and was close to a perfect match when a spell erased his memory. That day, Warren essentially woke up in a lab that he had no idea of. It was all connected to his knowledge that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so with that gone, he has no concept of this lab at all. So in the confusion, Warren woke up one of the clones, the final clone. The Hobgoblin unmasks himself to reveal Peter, with a giant scar covering his face. This was the final clone. His memories of himself were taken away from him the moment he was born. He felt that the only way to get those memories back was to turn to magic, so he trained under sorcerers, but this still didn't work. But then, finally, the Doomsday arrives. The timeline was reset, and his existence confused the timeline. It returned all of his memories to him, allowing him to know everything that Peter does. Peter calls his clone insane, and he's not wrong, but Peter is not exactly that far behind thanks to the influence of the symbiote, something that the Hobgoblin deliberately wanted to bring out of him. Their fight continues, breaking a case that had a spider in it that Warren was experimenting on. Black Cat defeats Chameleon, who was disguised as Spider-Man. Daredevil defeats the Prowler, and the spider finds and bites Miles Morales before dying on his hand. And the clone, now calling himself Kane, thanks Peter for warming up his suit for him. Kane uses a spell to extract the symbiote suit from Peter. Peter screams in agony and in pain, and emotionally he does not want to lose the suit, but he can't stop it from attaching itself to Kane. The symbiote has been strengthened by Peter's anger, enlarged by Peter's experience, and now, with the power of the symbiote, he intends on killing Peter and then replacing him as the one true Spider-Man. But with his mind already broken and the symbiote not helping, he turns into a classic Venom. Their fight leads back to the other room where Daredevil and the Black Cat try to help, but they are simply outmatched. However, their aid allowed Peter to focus on something else. He sees Miles Morales wearing the Spider-Man shirt, and then, inspired by people's love for Spider-Man, takes the Spider-Man suit that Chameleon wore from him and suits up again to fight Venom. Their fight becomes more intense, more brutal, and larger as it causes massive damage and leads back into the city. Daredevil realizes he's out of his depth, but goes to get the assistance of those who aren't. Aaron wakes up and finds his nephew unconscious and rushes him to the hospital. Venom causes massive damage and Spider-Man struggles to keep up as they swing at top speed through the city. Daredevil arrives at the Baxter building and recruits the Fantastic Two. Reed hypothesizes that based on the composition of the symbiote, it should be weak to loud sounds. Reed begins work work on a machine while Daredevil uses his super senses to direct Johnny to the action as it's ever moving. Spider-Man is knocked down by Venom and stays down for a moment until Black Cat pulls him up. Black Cat reminds Spider-Man that he is Spider-Man, he doesn't need the suit, he never did. She kisses him, and Peter locks back in just as the Human Torch and Daredevil arrive. Spider-Man and the Human Torch team up against Venom while Daredevil and Black Cat do their best to save people from the damage caused by the fight. Reed contacts Johnny, who tells Peter they need to lure Venom to the Baxter building. They do exactly this. Venom is led into a sonic trap, and while held by Reed's body, Peter's webbing, and Johnny's flames, the symbiote is detached from Kane and leaps towards Peter. In that moment, Peter is bloody and bruised, and he thinks back to every single time he was beaten down and defeated, how much easier it was with the symbiote. But then he thinks back to the moment where he met the sick kid. When he first arrived, he was wearing the black suit over the red suit, and the kid was terrified. He doesn't need the suit, he never did. Peter dodges the symbiote and tells Johnny to burn it, and he does exactly that. Kane begins to wake up, but it's revealed that he is dying. Reed scans him, and the scans show that he has no arachnid DNA, no magical traces, and his DNA is falling apart. The symbiote sapped everything, and his clone DNA, which is more fragile, couldn't take it. This also clears his mind from all of the broken parts. He tears up and starts talking like how Peter sounded at 14, remembering nothing but the days leading up to when Warren stole his DNA. Dying in Peter's arms, the clone asks Peter if May is okay. Peter is shocked, but lies and says, yes, May is fine. The clone tears up again and says, oh God, he died, it's my fault. Peter asks who, and Kane says, Uncle Ben, I could have saved him. I didn't, and then he passes away. Peter tears up as well. He tried to suppress the memory for years. He will never forget the day that he learned when you could do the things he can, but you don't. And then the bad things happen. They happen because of you. In the aftermath, Spider-Man says sorry to Ned and MJ, and they understand. As they speak alone, MJ reveals that she and Harry broke up because he thought that she was in love with Peter, and MJ says that he was right. Peter feels his heart jump. He realizes that he never truly moved on, and they kiss. Spider-Man meets up with Black Cat and tells her he doesn't think they should be together, but they agree to be friends, partners in crime fighting. At the Baxter building, Ben and Sue return from a side mission, while we see a piece of the symbiote, having survived, slithering away. Spider-Man visits Jean DeWolf in the hospital to give her flowers. Robert offers him a new suit again, but Peter says that he likes this one, and he's going to stick to it. Miles wakes up in the hospital to his parents beside him. He asks about his uncle, and we cut to Aaron being escorted through customs at a Supermax facility. We see Daredevil hanging on a church cross, listening to the city. He hears a scream and jumps into action. Peter visits Aunt May's grave again, but this time it zooms out to reveal two new gravestones. One of them that's always been there, the Uncle Ben one, and the new one belonging to Kane Parker. Spider-Man meets the dying kid again. This time, he reveals his identity to him and tells him to promise not to tell anyone. The kid hugs Spider-Man, and the movie comes to an end. An end credit scene would tease Spider-Man 6, which, I mean, as the 6th entry in the franchise, it simply must feature the Sinister Six. This end credit scene shows an underground bunker with a bunch of screens, each showing a different fight that Spider-Man had, with the primary screen showing him fighting Dr. Octopus, and then switching to his more recent fight with Venom. A man grumbles and a tentacle arm smashes the screen, creating a broken shard look around Spider-Man's face. Spider-Man will return. A few years later, we'd get either Spider-Man Ends of the Earth, or if we're still doing the day thing, then Spider-Man Darkest Day. Potentially Tom Holland's final Spider-Man movie as the MCU goes on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and thanks so much for watching this video. Watch this one next.